Hi, and welcome to another AOGP Scientology Outside of the Church podcast. I'm here with Quentin Stroud, my co host. This is episode 6, season 6. And this is going to be entitled, we're going to do a two-parter, maybe three, we'll see what happens. Two-parter at least on what does Scientology believe. And before we get started, I want to make a little bit of a differentiation for our new listeners that may have not listened to other podcasts, that there's a couple of different flavors. It's more than a Neapolitan kind of ice cream, where you have Scientology, the corporate entity, which is the one that has the bad reputation and we are not a part of. And that is one flavor. And then we have Independent Scientology, which is what we call ourselves. And we are very we try to follow what Hubbard says as precisely as we can. And then when the road ends, there are other options on the end of the grade chart, but that is up to you if you want to do that or not. It's not forced on you, and we give you all the information on that. Then there is free zone Scientology, which is a little bit more shoot from the hip, loosey goosey, um, buyer beware, know what you're getting into, truth in advertising type of a thing. So they tend to bend the rules and mix in their own practices and things like that. That is not us. And if that's your thing, feel free to listen to these podcasts, and you have self-determinism over it, and more power to you. But those are the three distinctions. Did I miss anything there, Quentin?
No, I think that covers most of how this is kind of chopped up a little bit. I love that you kind of started with that because I'm the one who really wanted us to delve into this for real. Because, you know, when you Google this stuff or when you search on YouTube or whatever, however you came across this podcast, right? You get to a point where you get all this information, and I think that having this word of mouth, kind of like coming straight from the horse's mouth, like conversation of what does Scientology believe? I think it really opens up the conversation a little bit in a whole hour where we can really kind of break everything apart and really get into the nitty gritty of it. So I'm really, really glad we're having this conversation because, you know, finding out this information or going online and finding this stuff, there needs to be some in-depth discussion about it. So I'm glad we're here.
Mhm. And it just occurred to me while you were saying that the fourth and most important thing is, and we've done podcasts on this in the past 5 years ago, is that there is Scientology, the subject, Scientology, the church, independent Scientology, free zone Scientology, and then there are all of the offshoots that are debased, as LRH says in the Phoenix lectures, from there, just like you see with, well, the Bible and all of the offshoots that go from there. I mean, there's a ton of them. So it's a little bit like that. We are as close to the Scientology, the subject, as can be, which means we are a kinder, gentler Scientology, the way it used to be in the 50s, 60s, and 70s before it became um, um,
Laid back.
yeah, it was laid back then. Yeah, and then it became a mafia, for lack of a better word. Miscavige worships the character in The Godfather, which is Don Corleone. I've got this from Marty Rathbun. He said himself that's the guy that he worships. He told me that in 2010. So that explains a lot. Anyway, I digress. What does Scientology, the subject, believe? Okay, and then from that, independent Scientology, so on and so forth. So I want to read you a quote here. What do we believe? Have I caught up, Quentin? Are we good to go on?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. Yep.
Okay. All right. So can I read you a definition here? Thought.
Mhm.
Okay. This is what you are. Theta. You are a thetan. You are a spiritual being, and you are a static of unlimited capabilities, which is itself no wavelength, no space, and no time. It is impinged upon a physical universe, our physical universe that you find yourself in while you're listening to this podcast, which has space, time, energy, and matter. The mission of thought is survival in the physical universe, and in order to do this, it is effective or effecting a conquest of and on the physical universe. This is what you do. This is who you are. Is you are hate to say it this way, but you are a thinker. You are plotting out in the physical universe, how am I going to play this game and win?
Mhm.
But please be aware that in order to play a game, you have to, wait for it, agree to become aberrated. Because if you knew all of the rules, and if you knew who was going to win the game, it would be a no game situation. So at the
Mhm.
time that you are theta the solver or theta the problem, because to play a game, you're going to be theta the problem, because you've got to have a problem to solve. That's how you play a game. So this is one of the things that we believe, is that you are a spiritual being that has no matter, energy, space, or time. And we got into this in the how to present Scientology to your friends in ways that you may not have thought of before. When you get somebody to look at a picture in their past of a pleasure moment, and they look at it and you ask them, what do they see? And they say, well, I see myself. And then they go, oh, wait, I see myself. How do I see myself? That's because you're 3 feet behind your head as a spiritual being. You're controlling the puppet, the meat puppet known as you, insert name here. And
Yeah.
this is how you get people to realize they're a spiritual being, not a body. You were going to say, Quentin?
No, and I think that, it merits a deep dive into, like, when we say you are a Thetan, right? It's not to be confused with the other religious concepts of the soul or whatever, although that would be probably the closest approximation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it really is, and that's the quote that you just read earlier about thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really is that you are a thinking thing. You are a thing. You are a thing that has no space, has no mass, has no locality, and yet you are capable of considerations, opinions, and postulates. You're capable of using that thinking, that thought,
Mm-hmm.
the thought or thought, to, we say you are the thinker that thinks the thoughts that create the things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything.
Everything. Right. That's right. As a Thetan in the physical universe, you are obsessed with, how can I move these pieces in the physical universe, change their form, make new pieces, all of this stuff, and put it all together. Like, the physical universe is one big Lego playset. And you
That's
have
amazing.
so many bricks that you can put together, and you can create little Lego characters. You can create houses. You can create businesses. You can create cities. You can create a Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. Anything, you name it. Look how big Lego has gotten, and people dig that sort of a thing, because it's like life. It is an analog or an analogy to life, and that's what a Thetan does. Is a Thetan
Yes.
a spirit? They're wholly concerned with being creative and creating. Get the thought
Hmm.
about how you feel when you get your creative juices flowing, and how much that derails you from everything else in life. Not in a bad way, maybe sometimes if you if you get too obsessed with it, but how much that derails you, and you're like, gosh, I just want to be an artist.
Mm.
That's because that is your primary directive. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Well, is it? I might be dating myself a little bit here, but um, when you talk about the Legos, I remember when we had Play-Doh, you know,
Oh
and
yeah.
with Play-Doh, you could create people, you could create little houses, you could create all these kind of thing, and it's like you're molding
Yes.
this matter,
Yeah,
you're
that's a fair
molding this thing
analogy.
into,
Yeah,
yeah,
anything.
that's before Legos was Play-Doh,
Yeah,
so it
yeah,
was
yeah,
like.
and it's interesting. We do clay demos in Scientology as well, which is not so dissimilar to Play-Doh. It's just clay, and it
Right.
doesn't dry out if you use non-hardening clay. Uh, but yeah, that's the thing, is that the physical universe is your bucket of clay, and you can create out of it whatever you want to create. So where does this go wrong, and what do we believe in Scientology, the subject, next, beyond that you're a Thetan and you're playing a game in the physical universe, and the universe is your oyster? Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I think we should. I think we should go back a little bit, right? I
Okay.
think we should go. Let's go back to the beginning. right?
Okay.
And start off with Dianetics. And I think that especially for new public or whatever, go like if we start with where this started and how we got to where we are now as Scientology, the subject,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be really important. So in Dianetics, if you ever heard anything on it, but it's two words put together, dia nous.
Mm-hmm.
Dia meaning through, like where we get the word diameter, like going through a circle. So dia meaning through, and nous meaning spirit or mind or spirits, the psyche of a person, right? So
Mm-hmm.
through the mind, right? So Dianetics is that practice, that technology that allows us to go through mind
Mm-hmm.
in order to uh, uh, locate or spot or pull out certain experiences or incidents,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
In order to release the charge or the negative impact of those incidents in our lives. And so, regardless of your religion, regardless of what you believe, regardless of where you live on planet Earth,
Mm-hmm.
we all are operating with the mind to a greater or lesser degree, right?
Right, right.
And
Whether you're
so,
aware of it or not, it's there.
yeah, you're operating with the mind. And so Dianetics was a really, really brilliant entree into all of this that LRH discovered, because it really gets us to go and deal with the one thing that we can all agree that we work with is our minds.
Mm-hmm.
And and the level of uh, uh, um, trauma, or the level of incidents, or the level of stuff that one has to deal with,
Mm-hmm.
if that could be relieved, if that could be lessened, that angst, that charge, that energy,
Right.
if that could be lessened, then I think we could be better off. So basically, Dianetics, then, it really is the precursor, it's the pretext to all of this, because it really kind of gets us to be able to confront and deal with those past traumatic experiences, those events in our past that really can jam a being up.
Mm-hmm.
And we do that using auditing. Do you want to go a little bit into more what auditing is as an auditor?
Well, auditing is done by an auditor, which is one who listens. And the difference between Scientology and other philosophies of the mind, practices of the mind, medical viewpoints is that we do not evaluate or invalidate the precur. We have a set of agreements called the Auditor's Code, and we take you in session. We have you put your attention on things that Hubbard has come up that have found that everybody has in common. In Dianetics, you would handle a lock secondary or engram. A lock is a reminder of an engram, which is a painful incident of pain and unconsciousness, a few other smaller things. And then we also have secondaries, which are losses. That's what Dianetics handles. Is Dianetics works on everybody because anybody can be a victim. And you can say, well, so when were you a victim? Okay, and now we got something to run. Boom, we're off to the races. Now I'm not saying that that's the procedure, but that's loosely that's what it is give me an incident that you can comfortably confront, and let's run through it, and you run the charge off of it. You've done 400 plus hours of Dianetics. Do you have anything to add to
Yes.
that from your perspective as running 400 hours of Dianetics?
Yeah, so to tell a story real quick, back in about 2006, a good friend of mine who was a is a Scientologist, who we literally decided that we're gonna do this. Like we're gonna get ourselves fixed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we literally got a place. We moved in together. We had a 3 bedroom, and the spare bedroom was used 100% for auditing.
Mm-hmm.
And all that was in there was 2 chairs, and we ready to go in it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so we did that every day for like a year and a half. Oh, not every day, I'm sorry, every week for like a year and a half. And we just ran all day long. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Auditing is a way for us to deal with ourselves, right? Deal with our stuff, deal with our triggers, deal with our traumas, deal with our junk.
Mm-hmm.
And if nothing else, for me, just getting about a good 25 hours. I did 400 because we just ran at it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
just getting a good 25 hours of auditing, giving and receiving, because it actually helps to like help another person, right? But doing a good 25 hours of auditing, it really frees up a lot of charge on your case. It frees up a lot of stuff in your mind so that you can move closer towards it, what Dianetics book calls Dianetic release, where you release a good chunk of that energy
Mm-hmm.
that has been affecting you for years and years and years and years, and you can get it off of you in a very short period of time comparatively.
Mm-hmm. Right. And Dianetics works, even original book one from 1950 works really, really quickly, faster than you might think. And it takes a while for you to catch up to the velocity of the processing, not to mention what you can do with Scientology auditing, which is not so dissimilar. Um,
To give a quick uh, concept on that. So back in the day, I was in this very, very severely aberrative, severely toxic, abusive relationship. And after the relationship, I had to get some help. I need to get some help. So I actually ended up going to see a psychotherapist at the
mhm,
time, and it was just a conversation, a two-way communication kind of thing. But in talking to this lady, we made some really good strides. It was a great, great two-way comm, right?
mhm,
And I'm like, I'm good. I'm so good. Oh my God, life is so much better now. So I continue on my life, and I saw her for about a year. I continue on my life, and I get into this new relationship, and my partner at the time says to me, "You play so much. Oh, you play so much," like that.
mhm,
And literally, my whole body froze up
mhm,
because that's something that my ex used to say.
mhm.
And it was the same kind of tone. It was the same kind of energy. It was that whole vicious, it
Right.
just hit me the wrong way.
Earlier, similar.
Yeah, yeah. It was like an earlier thing that just turned something on.
Mhm,
And a year after psychotherapy, I thought I was good. I thought I'm fixed. I'm ready to get back into a relationship. And this one phrase, "you play too much,"
mm,
froze me up, and like my whole body, and it like literally, like they're like this, like, "Hello, hello, like, you Quentin, you there?" Like literally, I could not move.
mhm,
When I finally came to and came like, "Oh my gosh, what happened?" I had no idea what was going on. I knew then that for me, psychotherapy did not work for me in that sense. After a year of doing this big money,
mhm,
big money,
mhm, mhm,
um, and so when I started doing Dianetics with my twin, we're running it, and we run out that very incident, not the new one, the X incident with
the
the X,
earlier one. Uh-huh.
the earlier incident, correct. We run that thing out, and I felt this a massive release of energy. Nothing has tripped me up since then. And it was literally within an hour, maybe hour and a half, if even that long. It was that quick,
Mhm.
from a year of psychotherapy to about an hour, hour and a half of Dianetics. And it totally blew the whole charge. It was fantastic.
Mm. That definitely a striking difference in the amount of time spent on something. For
Yeah.
sure. For sure. Now, we have here in our notes for this podcast, and maybe I'm interjecting this in the wrong place. And if you want to put it somewhere else where it seems more logical, that's fine. What do you know, and or do you believe, having done so much Dianetics in with Scientology, what's the difference between know and believe? We talked about this yesterday in a conversation, which got us going on this podcast. Do you know that Scientology and Dianetics works, or do you believe? And is it religious? Is it a religion? Or is it a religious philosophy, or is it philosophy, or what? Where do you come
So
from on that? With after that particular anecdote that you just told us about the the relationship and everything.
100%. So we obviously entitled this podcast, "What Does Scientology Believe?" And we did that obviously because colloquially, just kind of general public is probably going to search more so, what do you believe? However, for me, when you start a flow and you don't really know what's going on with it, you don't know what to do, you don't know what this whole thing is about. You might have just picked up a book, you might have just, saw something online or whatever. When you start this, you're interested. What does Scientologists believe? What do Scientology believe? And believe is a little bit of a misnomer, although it embodies something I think is really important.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we talk about what we know, right, it comes across as a very intellectual, very clear-cut kind of thing, and it kind of deals with the realm of knowingness, which is intellect, which is how you operate. And in Scientology, that really is our thing. Like, we know that we know we know that we know that we know that we know what we know,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what's true for you is what's true for you,
Right.
right? And so you know that to be true for you. So that's fine, cool.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I believe that there is a um, a undercurrent to Scientology that we want to kind of tap into as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the undercurrent as I'm saying this, it has more so to do with what our goals and purposes are, right? The aims of Scientology, what we're really trying to get to in the world. And if we lean into that a little bit more, ridding the world of insanity and
Criminality.
criminality, that's the word, sorry,
Mm-hmm.
reading the world of these things, like, it starts to say, like, wow, there really is a deeper purpose to you sitting in a chair talking about what happened to you when you were 3. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
There really is a deeper purpose. So yes, absolutely, doing Dianetics over 400 hours, I got so many gains, so many wins, relieved so many psychosomatic illnesses. It really, really changed my life. And I know this to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that those who decide to tap into this, those of you who decide to pick up a book, those of you who decide to get in session, those of you decide to reach out and say, I need some auditing. Those of you who decide that, I believe it's going to change your life. And I say this, anything you believe, you become and live. Live.
Mm-hmm.
Anything you believe, you become and live. And I believe that this is how we're going to impact the world as
Mm-hmm.
Scientologists.
Thank you. Now,
That's your question.
no, it's fine. No, I'm thanking you. Not tongue in cheek. I mean, thank you. That answers my question as an acknowledgement
Sure.
at TR2. Now, my next question is, and you can talk all you want. I mean, it's your show too. Is what do you know after 400 hours of Dianetics? And
Mm.
as far as believing
Hmm.
that this can help other people, what do you know? What did you walk away with? 400 hours of Dianetics is not chump change.
Sure.
I mean, that's rolling your sleeves up and saying, okay, we're going to get something done here. So
Right.
what do you know after that for our listeners? And it's rare to run into somebody that's done that much Dianetic auditing, and it's an early easy step to do. Obviously, it was so easy. You
Hmm.
guys just had a spare room. You went down, went in and sat down and just start. You know, so
Let me just, I'm going to answer your question 100%, but let me just say this to that point. It's something that I believe that anybody can do if
mhm,
they really commit to it, and you really want to get the help, you really want to get the wins that come
mhm,
from it. So
mhm,
what do I know after 400 hours of Dianetics auditing? I know that you are able to rise above your own limitations.
mhm,
You're able to rise above your own considerations about yourself, about other people. I had some stuff about dating in general. I had some stuff about money in general. I had some stuff that really, really messed me up about my
mhm,
mama. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? I
Uh-huh.
had some stuff that really messed me up, just in life in general. And yet, after 400 hours, I'm now able to kind of rise above that. So I know that we can rise above. I know that we can conquer our own reactive mind, which is what Dianetics kind of delves into when you get into the book. The reactive mind, that part of you that records all of these negative experiences and
Mhm.
plays it back at you in a
Right.
way to try to make you feel safe, to get you out of harm's way. But it's totally twisted. It's totally messed up. And you then look at yourself and you be like, did I really used to do that? Did I really used to believe that? Whatever it is. So I'm going to say this. I know after 400 hours that we are better than what we think we are.
Mm.
And we're able to use
Mhm.
our own mind to get us out of whatever we got ourselves into in our life. And Dianetics is a wonderful entree to that. And of course, the goal of Dianetics is to go clear and to get up that. So yeah,
Mhm.
I know that to be true. I do. That's my truth.
Mm. Thank you. And that I hope our listeners understand that. That's to me that is one of those things that you're coming from somebody that's done it and put the time in, because you have to put the time in Scientology. You can't. It's just like anything else. If you're going to do it professionally, and you've got to find out first what the basics are, and understand we've got free courses on our online course room. You can read books. You don't have to do anything with us. It's that if you're going to get help somewhere type thing.
Hmm.
We're not just trying to tell you on AOGP. The subject itself is extremely workable, and it can get results on an immediate basis, but you've got to apply it to your life and to the lives of others in order to see the results. Now,
Right.
that would bring me my next and final question on Dianetics. What did it do for you with other people in your life? Because you don't live in a plastic bubble.
Right.
What did Dianetics do for you on that?
Wow. So I would definitely say this. More than just helping me feel better after getting all this stuff
Mm-hmm.
off my case, right? Getting all this stuff out of my mind. What it really did for me with other people is, number one, it helped me understand people a little bit better, right? A lot bit
Mm-hmm.
better. It
Mm-hmm.
helped me understand people better in that I get to now, when I'm seeing you act it out, when I see somebody dealing with some their own quirks and qualms, or these things that they play over and over and over again,
They
in Dianetics called
dramatize.
drama. Right, it's
Mm-hmm.
called dramatization. You're dramatizing your own junk, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see this stuff getting turned on in people. You could be like, "Wow, that's not him. That's not her. That's
Mm-hmm.
not who you really are. This is you playing something back on from whatever this is. It happened before me. I wasn't there when it went down. I wasn't there when this was done to you.
Right.
And yet, I'm having to deal with it in present time.
Mm-hmm.
And what Dianetics helped me do with people is just to be a little bit more understanding, to get more ARC, affinity, reality, communication with the person, and get them through some of that drama, get
Mm-hmm.
them through some of that stuff, so that we can move forward as a group, or as a couple, as a people, as whatever. So Dianetics really, really helped me to get to know people better,
Mm-hmm.
beyond just what they say out of their mouth. You can see it turn on. You can see them shift into a whole different like person. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, dang, that ain't you. Who am I talking to right now?
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say that it made you fundamentally more objective and exterior to other people's, not not that
Yeah.
you're intolerant of it, but you're more understanding, empathetic, and compassionate about the fact that this is something going on in their space, their universe, their head, not yours. Is that what you're saying?
And absolutely. And you don't get, not necessarily, after 400 hours, it's more difficult for me to get interbulated or messed up or pulled into their stuff with them, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So they're going in, they're dramatizing, they're screaming, yelling, da 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 da, all this stuff is happening, and you can be like, okay, I got you, I hear you,
Mm-hmm.
okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
and you can like literally see the person playing out their drama, and you don't have to get pulled into it necessarily. You don't
Mm-hmm.
have to get sucked in. I don't have to get sucked into this whole thing, and now we in a shouting match and da 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 da. Like, nah, like I get it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
y- you done? You
Mm-hmm.
done? You ready to move on? And
Mm-hmm.
I literally have people get upset with me. I literally have people get upset with me because they think you don't care.
Yeah.
Because they
Yeah.
literally think you don't care about them, or you don't care about what because you're not dramatizing it with them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not. I'm like, well, I don't have your same stuff. Like that ain't affecting me the way it's affecting you. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so Dianetics helped me see all of that, man. It
Mm-hmm.
helped me see it so objectively, so clearly. And I know that that is not that person that I fell in love with, or that's not that person that I'm connected to. That's not that person that's a part of my family. That's not you. That
Mm-hmm.
is something else that's being played out here.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get you through it so that we can move on with this relationship.
Mm-hmm. Well, like Hubbard says, he says, that emotion is used to get a desired result.
Yes.
So
Ooh, I like that one.
if somebody is dramatizing something, they're using something that's been a successful action in their past that gets them to get the result that they want. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right result, but it gets results. And this is where service facsimiles come out, to where a person uses some sort of an engram, something that's happened to them, to say, you know, my legs don't work. I'm in a wheelchair. You need to get out of the way. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm more important than you. That aids their survival and hinders that of others. And they make you wrong with it, and I have these problems and I'm a victim. And look what you've been doing to me. All of this is using an emotion to get a desired result. I'm a victim and you need to play by my rules. Where you're saying you see that for what it is, and it's not just black and white. You're seeing in millions of colors, and you're going, that ain't me.
Right.
I'm
And I don't have to succumb to that emotional usury in order
mhm,
to get you. No, okay. I got it.
right.
Yeah,
Would you say that
whatever.
it helps you choose your people better?
Oh God, yes. Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. If when you do a good 25 hours of Dianetics, when you contact us and get in session, you get through this stuff. You think about like who you're connecting with. You really think about like what kind of messed up stuff is this person playing out, and it starts to really get you to start to see like, yeah, I don't want to be a part of that. Or if I'm going to be a part of it because I love the person or I want to help the person or whatever, if
Hmm.
I'm going to be a part of it, they're going to have to do something about this. Like it's
Hmm.
going to have to improve. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
and now you have some workable technology to help it improve.
Right. And improve their conditions in life, because that you're not going to go down that stretch of road. Another way that doesn't have potholes and isn't bumpy, doesn't have hills, and is a nice shallow gradient down to the sea, where you can sit and enjoy a beautiful sunset and have a nice picnic and listen to the birds and see aesthetics type of a thing. I mean, just as an analog, instead of going through rocks and hills and snakes and heat and all this. No, it can be a lot easier because you can spot what's going on before you get into a mess.
Right. Well, so obviously we're talking about Dianetics and we're going to continue, but uh, Dianetics, of course, the purpose of it and the goal of it is to help a person go clear, right?
Yep.
Talk to us a little bit about that. Talk to us about when a person is doing this and they get it, like they decide that they're going clear, they go clear, right? A person is kind of, that's the goal here, obviously,
Hmm.
right? What does that mean, going clear? And tell us more about that.
Well, Hubbard came up with a couple of different states of clear early in the researches, and if people listen to these any of the lectures, 4,800 plus lectures that he gave on Dianetics and Scientology, there were different types of clear. Theta clear, which is one messed clear, matter, energy, space, and time. You're clear of the messed universe, so on and so forth. And then it came down to just, okay, it clear is clear and clear is clear, and that's that. And clear is a being who no longer has their reactive mind. As the technology developed And he tried to figure out lots of ways to make clears faster, not less thoroughly, but make them faster. And a lot of those ways could, but they weren't what you would call stable. And poor old Dianetics kind of got left in the background after Scientology really took off. Scientology wouldn't have happened without Dianetics. We covered that in other podcasts, so we won't get into that. But
That's next
clear,
time.
yeah, clear is a being who no longer has their reactive mind. In other words, they are much more themselves. Now, relatively speaking, clear is a really good start, but it isn't all that in a bag of chips either, because now after going clear, you have unlocked the locks on Pandora's box, because your awareness with clear has come up. You are no longer
You no
dramatizing
longer
these
have your head
things.
head in the sand.
You don't have your
Right.
head in the sand and you're pulling it out, and you've climbed up to the top of the canopy of trees in the jungle, and you're looking out, and you're able to climb the tree, and you're able to get up there, and you stick your head out above the canopy and go, oh,
All
here,
this
all this, here's where I'm at. Now there's mountains off in the distance, and oh, there's a river over there, and all this stuff. Same thing.
I had my hole. I was happy in my
Right,
hole.
and you weren't aware, but now you're clear, and your
Right.
awareness has come up, your responsibility has come up, you're able to
Boy, oh
handle
boy.
a lot more. But that is the first big step. That's what clear is, and he established that in 1950, and it got polished up all the way up into the 70s. And
Mm-hmm.
so once you're clear on, and we can handle this from the first dynamic viewpoint, you and your body, you and your mind. And there's 8 dynamics. So there are other things that need to be handled. Second dynamic, third dynamic. These are still affected to a certain degree, but by the composite case. And the composite
Mm-hmm.
case is you, your body, and other dead or living beings. Let's just leave it at that for now, so we're not
Mm-hmm.
getting into any confidential information. But the point is that Pandora's box, the locks are off, and now you can start to handle yourself and be responsible for your case after about 250 to 300 hours of Scientology auditing, or in your case, 400 hours of Dianetics and some Scientology auditing.
Mm-hmm.
But Dianetics can get you really close to clear, but there are other things that little things that need to be handled, and everybody's
Right.
a little bit different. All cases are the same, and they get handled the same way with both Dianetics and Scientology. It is possible to go clear with just Dianetics. It is, in some cases, Hubbard says, possible for a person to just go clear with Scientology. Yes, I said it.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the bulletins. Look it up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just go clear with Scientology and without Dianetics. This can happen, but generally it takes a little bit of both in different areas to handle these things. So once you're
Mm-hmm.
clear, now you can take responsibility for your own case. Now, where does this lead us with clear? Well, come to find out that you've been around an awful long time in this universe. In the physical universe itself, time is a lie. The physical universe is very old, much older than earth scientists want you to know or believe, and I don't think they have any idea. It's just a placeholder because they keep pushing it back and saying, well, the big bang wasn't really where everything started. Yeah. So you've been around in this universe, in the theta universe, for a very long time. Physical universe is one long line of points in time where you were doing this in the physical universe. Theta universe, as you discover once you get on the OT levels, well, there is no time, there is no space, there is no
Right.
distance. We're all in the same room, and you can contact and you can have communication with people on the other side of the universe, the galaxy, whatever you want to call it, or galaxies and things like that. We're all in the same room. So the physical universe looks really big, time looks really big. Don't believe it. But you've
Right.
gotten yourself to
Well,
believe that you're part of the physical universe, and that's part of what clear
that's it.
makes you. That's part of what clear makes you, is that you've been you've convinced yourself, and others have tried to convince yourself, that, well, you're a meat body and you crawled up out of the ocean, on so on and so forth.
the reason why, and you're so spot on, because the reason why science, as we know it, and anthropology and eschatology and all that other stuff or whatever, the reason why science keeps kicking the can back years upon years and million this, million 15 million that, or whatever, is because they're basing their origin of self
Mm-hmm.
off of bones and fossils and something else that they dug up from, 300
Mm-hmm.
feet underground or whatever it can say be. Oh, we found these bones. And it shows that the first human was blah, 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 blah. Okay, you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like, but that doesn't speak to the origin of me. That doesn't speak to self. That doesn't speak to who I am, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so good. We found Lucy. What wonderful for Lucy. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or whoever that is. Like the point I'm making is that when we talk about clearing these things off of you and clearing this stuff, we also, I'm just gonna throw it out there. We also got to talk about consecutive lives. We also
Mm-hmm.
got to talk about how, like, you existed before your meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
existed before your mama and daddy met. You existed before they got together and, bon chicka wow wow, and whatever. You existed before that.
Mm-hmm.
You are operating a body,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're operating a body. You're driving this nice car or whatever, or if you might have a jalopy, but you're driving it, right? And,
Mm-hmm.
and, it, and it gets you to point A to from point A to point B as best you can.
Moving the body
And
around.
yeah, you're moving it around, right?
Yep.
And so, like, so obviously we're talking about, what does Scientology believe? Does Scientology believe in past lives?
Well, here's the interesting thing. Nobody's going to force that off on you. Okay.
Correct.
It is in the materials. And what happens is that as you get auditing and you start taking charge off of the case and you lose mental mass through auditing, because that is the goal, is the reduction of mental mass and mental charge. All of a sudden, one day in session, you come up with this thing where you're standing in front of the mirror and it's you, but you look like somebody else. Or you see your hands and your hands are not your hands. There's some other body's
Hmm.
hands. Or, or you come to realize this yourself. Nobody is going to say, you've had past lives and you better believe it, damn it, or get out. There's the door.
No.
Okay.
Right.
That is not it. So, what does
And that's
Scientology
not how
believe?
Scientology operates. Correct.
Right. That is Scientology. The subject is, if it's true for you, it's true for you. When it's true for you, it's true for you. If it's not, so be it. That's it. But the fact of the matter is I know, not that I believe, I know I have been around a very, very long time when you look at it from the
That's a better way
standpoint
of
of the
saying it.
physical
Yeah.
universe. I know this for a fact. I have
Right.
had thousands of hours of auditing, both with other auditors and with myself as a solo auditor. And I can
Hmm.
say unequivocally, without reservation, and my life is not important in comparison, just for the fact that I know I come back. And
Yeah.
I'm playing a game with a certain body with a certain name, but I've been a lot of places and I've done a lot of things. Not, some of them not so good and some of them really, really good. And I've made
Amazing.
decisions to where I'm not going to play those games. Just last night, I was in session, and I will share this with the world. Uh, I was doing some FPRD auditing with our staff auditor here at AOGP, and I've always wanted to do AOGP. It's what got me into Scientology as an adult. I was raised as a Scientologist, but it got me into Scientology, looking at those success stories for FPRD, and it took me 35 years to actually get in a position where I could do that. And one of the decisions that I made and I came up with, and this was on the line of this particular false purpose, which I will reserve not to bring up just because it doesn't really add anything to it. But I had made the decision back in World War One, in the trenches in France, that I was not in any way, shape, or form, by God, I'd put my satanic foot down, and I was not going to kill another man ever again, because I had become so sickened at why this had to be done. And it isn't something that has to be done. or must be done. It is to make other men more wealthy, and it is a power play, and you are
Mm,
just cannon fodder for bankers and suppressive individuals that do not care about you, do not care about how you took the life of somebody else's son or somebody else's daughter, somebody else's father. I would not, cannot, won't ever do this again. And as I left the body that lifetime, I made that promise to myself. In the next lifetime, I got into Scientology.
nice.
And in that
Yeah.
lifetime, when I dropped that body in 1967, guess what? 2 years old, my dad got into Scientology. And I was raised
Hmm.
as a Scientologist, and I became an auditor, and now I'm a case supervisor. And now I run AOGP.
Hmm.
This is the power of decision. This is the power of postulates, going from horrible ways to die and killing people because somebody else says you either kill people or we'll kill you.
Hmm.
And if
Mm.
you're going to survive, you have to
Or
kill other
imprison you.
people or imprison
Right.
you. Yeah, I mean,
Right.
at that time, it wasn't an American thing that I was doing, but the whole point was, and I'll go even further. I'll go even further. This is really personal for me, really, really
Yeah.
personal. As an OT8, and it was just as an aside, the gentleman, the Thetan that I dispatched that caused me to realize this and the way that I killed him was sitting in his kitchen in Belgium last night with his children, completely oblivious to the life that he had lost at my hands. That many, almost, well, really, over 100 years ago. And I found that being living another life, and I saw that he was happy.
Nice.
So it came full circle. It really, and I'm trying to keep my shit together here on this because it's that
Yeah.
it's
I
that
see it.
personal. And this is Scientology, people.
Yeah.
It doesn't get more personal than that. And if I can do anything to help that individual recover from what it was that I did to him, and Scientology also says, look, we're all responsible for our own condition. So there was something going on there too for him, and you have to acknowledge that. And at some point, you just let it go, and that's what clear is
Hmm.
about: is taking responsibility for these things, letting them go, and your flows open up from them to you, you to them, others to others, others to another, another to others, you to yourself, and you
Hmm.
you're you you're so much more open, so much more free, so much more able, so much more aware. There is nothing else like this that I am aware of on this planet that can do something for you that quickly. Very similar to what you were saying: a year of psychotherapy, hour and a half of Dianetics.
Yep.
Hubbard was brilliant enough to come up with this stuff. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting because not only doing it so quickly, but also so thoroughly. Like it's the way that stuff comes off of you, the
Mm-hmm.
way you're freed of the level of, and I'm keep saying stuff because it's like a charge. It's something intangible, but you feel it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It holds you back, it holds you down, it makes you anxious, it makes you nervous, it gives you the shakes, whatever it does, right?
Yep.
Like that stuff as it comes off of you, you can feel the shift that happens. Now, it's interesting you talk about your story and about what happened, which is amazing. I'll say this, and to the point about consecutive lives, past lives, stuff like that. I'm in session, and these 400 hours. We're sitting in the living room at the time doing auditing, and I'm going in and I go back to this. I'm flying a plane and
Mm-hmm.
I'm calling out SOS. I'm calling out a SOS.
Mm-hmm.
And in session, I started throwing out these numbers. Do, 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 right? My auditor actually writes the numbers down. We're going in, we continue. And we clear that whole incident.
Mm-hmm.
After session, we go and look up these numbers. What are these numbers?
Mm-hmm.
It was the exact longitude and latitude of where my plane went down. And we go back, get this, we go back and we pull it up, and it pulled up the exact location of a battle, a skirmish, a battle that happened during the war, during World War II.
Mm-hmm.
No, World War I, I'm sorry, World War I. And we pulled it up, and it was crazy how this whole thing unfolded. So I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, that's where I die? That's it." I was like, "That's it."
Uh-huh. Oh,
And so it's amazing stuff. But yeah. Anyway, um,
that's really
oh
cool.
gosh. Yeah,
No,
man. I just encourage people. I encourage people to really explore for themselves because again, these are our personal stories. These are our personal experiences, but you get to discover your own as you get in session.
mhm. Right. And this is what it can do for you. And in the process of going clear, chances are that you will probably run into some past life stuff. Nobody's going to ask you for it. It just comes up because it is
Yeah.
a reality, and you can verify this. Hubbard did that with the Mission into Time book with pictures and said, "Go do this, go do that." We mentioned that in a podcast last month. Uh, so you can validate this stuff, and you can get a lot of data out of it. And the better shape you're in with more auditing, the more time, place, form, and event you can get, where you get an actual date, an actual time, an actual location, what you saw, what was there, and you can hop on the internet and you go, "Holy shit, this is the real thing." This is what happened, type of a thing. So
So
go ahead.
I was gonna say to get ready to close us out because you mentioned OT8, and before we close out on this particular episode, I do want to kind of touch into that, and we can probably pick it up later if we need to. But like you mentioned, OT being operating Thetan.
Hmm.
Is there anything you want to share on that now, or do you want to like open it up and then we can pick it up later?
Well, I mean, all the OT levels is there are particular things that Hubbard found that were holding people back. Just different levels give you different results. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to handle the low hanging fruit, the next lowest hanging fruit, and the next lowest hanging fruit of the composite being the composite case, things that make up your individuality, your space. And I'm
Hmm.
not going to get into any more
Of
specifics than
course.
I absolutely have to, because I'm not going to spoil it for people, because it has to be real for you and true for
Right.
you. And I assure you that if you do things the way Hubbard says to do them, and you do the grade chart and you do the steps on the gradient and everything, you will find that the abilities and the charge that comes off on the OT levels is exponentially greater per session than it is on the lower end of the bridge, or even with Dianetics, where you might get one or two divisions of tone arm off on a meter. In lower grades, you will get 10 to 15 off in
Nice.
5 minutes or less on the OT levels. And I've had as many as over 50 divisions of TA in one session
Mm.
on OT3 twice. So it is important to note that the OT levels, all they do is they get you to get your personal beingness and ability and awareness back by discharging more of your composite case, and that goes back into past lives. And
Hmm.
that's all I can say about that. And when you're there, you'll know. And it reads like crazy, crazy, crazy on the meter, showing this charge and this mass that's going on. You do what he says, you get the results. All of a sudden, you can be, do, and have an awful lot more than you could before. And it's systematic, and it doesn't take a whole lot of time to do. So it's even with my OT7 success story, it was a matter of run up the bridge, because you have a brief opportunity to do this and avail yourself of the gifts that Scientology and Dianetics, independent Scientology and Dianetics, can give you in order to achieve the goals, the games that you want to play, and help take care of others. That's what the OT levels do. And it is not something you can conceive of until you're there, about what your own personal potential is. But let me tell you this: if there ever was a God, you are it.
I love that. Absolutely. And it's interesting because we started this episode off by talking about thought and
Mm-hmm.
data and that whole space. And so it's good that we're ending up on OT operating data and the OT levels because I'll reiterate what you said at the beginning. You said a thought is a static of unlimited capabilities, which has itself no wavelength no space, no time. It is impinged upon the physical universe, which has space, time, energy, and matter. The mission of thought is survival in the physical universe, and in order to do it, it is affecting a conquest of the physical universe. This is where, as Scientologists, we seek to experience life as operating Thetan so that we can successfully affect a conquest of the physical universe.
Mhm.
I love that.
Mhm. Yeah,
Welcome.
physical universe. Yeah. The physical universe is a chessboard, and you agreed to become aberrated in order to play a game over a very very long period of time. Fast forward, here you are on Earth, a prison planet, a universal dumping ground, with a bunch of others in the same state, and you've convinced yourself that you push a meat puppet around, and you don't have to play that anymore. You can play much bigger games, not just in the physical universe, but in the theta universe, the non-physical universe, and you can help an awful lot of people, and it's a hell of a lot of fun to play a game with a lot of other able people as well, instead of playing the game of running yourself into the dirt and becoming a molecule on some beach somewhere. Literally, I'm not kidding you, this is what happens.
Well, and so as we get ready to wrap up, but I want to say this: you might not know what we know based on our experiences. You might not know yet. You might not know
Yeah,
what are they
this
talking about?
sounds
What is this
so
stuff, right?
fantastic. Yeah.
You might not know, but if you believe that this could help you, if you believe that something in you is pulling you towards this conversation, something in you drew you to this podcast, something in you is asking you or seeking for you to reach out and say, I need some auditing. If you believe that that's something that you want to do, by all means reach out, by all means make a connection, and by all means get started quickly.
Yep. Yeah. Time is a wasting, and if you hadn't noticed lately, things are just getting a little bit more ramped up and worse here on
Boy,
planet
oh
Earth,
boy.
with the dramatization of the reactive mind of all of the people that call the shots and charge you interest and put things in your food and put things in your bloodstream and so on and so forth. And this isn't the first time this has happened, folks. It's the same story, different planet, same story,
Get it
different
together.
place and time. Get it together. You have an opportunity. We can help. Lots of free courses, lots of helpful information, no hard sell. It's just
Yeah,
you can do what you want to do, as you can do it. We can work things out. It isn't expensive. Start. So,
love it.
for Quentin Stroud and myself, this is the end of part one of our 2 to 3 podcast called What Does Scientology Believe? We'll get into this more in depth in the next podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this. I know I have, doing this with Quentin. It's always a pleasure. And we will see you in the next episode in a day or two. Take care. And for Quentin and myself, namaste. We love you.
Peace.